Come on, Sharon.
Come on, rock and
Let's go!
I feel unhappy. I feel so sad. I've lost the best friend that I ever had. She was my woman.
To grow up loving an idol that helps you figure out your identity, not only as a musician but also as a man, is something that I'm truly grateful for. But then to get to know them and form a relationship with them, honor them at their final show, and receive this because of it, is something that I think we're all finding so strange to comprehend.
I'm going through changes.
It was just such a special day, and the whole event was just crazy. Like, I've never been to the Grammys. I wasn't playing, so it was purely going as a nominated artist and experiencing the craziness. And I liken it to, it was like the Grammys were like 500 marrying couples in one day. There were just all these people, all these entourages, all these amazing outfits, and I didn't see any kind of major arguments or fights like you do at weddings, but
You got this Grammy for an incredible performance and a really poignant one as well. I mean, talk us through, first of all, the actual performance of the song that you won the Grammy for, because it was a really important moment in music history, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was that whole day was quite crazy. We rehearsed with Ozzy and with Black Sabbath for the kind of 3 or 4 weeks leading up to that show, and the couple of days before the actual show were the scheduled days for the kind of 2 supergroup sets. So we had different singers, different guitar players, different people just coming in and out. Tom Morello from Rage Against the Machine, he was the musical director for those kind of two batches of performances. And so there were lots of emails going back and forward, and I basically just offered my services to whoever, I said, if the song's got keyboards and you don't have a keyboard player, I'm there, so use me. So I ended up, I think I played on 12 of the 14 songs out of these 2 groups. And that particular day before, we ran through the second supergroup set, which had Yungblud in. And he came in, that was the first time I'd met him, and he was a great, lovely, lovely guy, Dominic. Up until that point, it was supposed to be a different singer. And for whatever reason, the singer dropped out a couple of days before, and Dom came in as the kind of replacement for changes.
I feel unhappy. I feel so sad. I've lost the best friend that I ever had. She was my woman.
So it was kind of, talk about a moment that, could have been somebody else. But we only played it twice. We ran through it twice, and that was it. And then the next time we did it was on stage, and it was that epic performance.
I'm going through changes. I'm going through changes. I'm going through changes.
After we did it in the rehearsal the day before, I spoke to my wife and I just said, this is going to be a special moment. And it was just one of those moments. I often wonder, when you speak to kind of like songwriters and people like that, and they get asked the question, say for example Adele, did you know Rolling in the Deep was going to be such a huge song? And most artists and people go, yeah, of course, it was just one of those special moments. And I always think, that's really easy to say with hindsight, but being involved in that performance, I can genuinely say that it was going to be a special moment. I had no idea it was going to be as important as it was. And obviously with Ozzy passing away a few weeks later, it was just a really special moment.
I'm going through changes. I'm going through changes.
What did Ozzy make of it?
Well, the funny thing is on the day, he was in his dressing room getting ready for the show, and he obviously had all his kind of health issues to deal with, and also he had everybody under the sun going into the dressing room to go and say hello and thank him for him letting them be there for the show. So he didn't see much of it, if any of it, on the day, because the days, when you're doing shows like that, you don't often see the support band or anybody else is playing. So it was only afterwards that he started watching all the footage back. And we'd taken the family on a holiday to France. Literally the next day, we drove to the south of France. And he was texting me, just saying, I've just seen this performance. It's incredible. I've just seen the changes with Yungblud. Amazing, And so he was catching up with it over those next few weeks. So he was really properly humbled by it all. I just feel really privileged to have been there, 23 years. It just feels unbelievably sad, but it makes me feel unbelievably proud that I could be there right to that last performance.
And you know what? If you could engineer the way you wanted your career to kind of come to an end, I mean, it was, as you said, incredibly sad, but so beautiful as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, there wasn't one kind of cross word at that venue, and there were so many artists, bands that could have the right to be a bit stroppy about having their set cut short or equipment not in the right place or not working, because it's an unbelievable feat to get that many bands of that stature on a stage in a stadium. We had a revolving stage, but it was still quite some doing. Jake Berry, who was the production manager on that show, he does Guns N' Roses, he does Rolling Stones, AC/DC. He's one of the best production managers in the world. He looked exhausted by the end.
I'm not surprised.
But there wasn't one cross word. It was such a lovely atmosphere. I don't think that will ever be repeated.
Let me see them hands in the air to the top. Oh, I'm going. I can't hear you say.
The last time I saw Ozzy Osbourne, you asked me if there was anything you could do for me. I answered the music was enough, and I can safely say on behalf of all of us that still stands now and it will do forever. You'll be with me every time I'm nervous and on stage at every show. God bless rock music and God bless Ozzy Osbourne.
Thank you, Birmingham. God bless Black Sabbath. God bless Ozzy Osbourne.
It does kind of make me think about, I've heard you talking about the fact that back in the day here on the Isle of Man, you used to play Black Sabbath in the pubs and in the bars over here. I mean, who'd have thought?
I know you grow up, I grew up, say, playing like Paranoid and Iron Man in the pubs, the Creek and the, Craig Mallin and all these places that kind of, hold such a strong memory for me, for the time that I was on the Isle of Man. I mean, I was only on the Isle of Man for 2.5 years. But it feels, honestly, like a massive part of my life. I don't know whether those formative years of kind of 16 to 18 are just so embedded into your kind of core memories. It's kind of... And I love the fact that very little has changed. I was back with Damien Wilson. We played a show at the Centenary Centre 5 weeks ago. I can't remember now, January sometime. I don't know. It's calming to know that things don't change at the pace that they do elsewhere.
But we do want to talk today, speaking of Sabbath, of the fact that you're releasing a new Jazz Sabbath album, a live one. But if we're doing that, do I have to speak to you as Milton? How does it work?
Well, I should probably explain for the benefit of the listeners that I came up back in 2019. I was on tour with Black Sabbath, playing keyboards for them, and we were in Berlin, and it was a night off, and I'd gone out for a couple of drinks with one of the security guards who was also on a night off. And we'd ended up back in the bar of the hotel about midnight. There's nobody in there. There was a piano in the corner of the room. And he said, "Why don't you play some Black Sabbath songs on the piano?" And I said, "Oh, it sounds terrible." I said, "Unless it's like, some kind of lounge jazz or some kind of jazz thing." So I improvised a bit of Iron Man on the piano. And we had a laugh about it, had another glass of wine. And then when I went to bed, I thought, actually, this is a really good idea. This would be quite a fun thing to do. So I started thinking about all the songs that would work well as a kind of, sort of improvised jazz sort of piano trio. And then had another glass of wine. And then I thought, wouldn't it be great if there was this disillusioned jazz pianist from the 60s who claims that he wrote all the songs himself? So the first thing I did was I wrote a short mockumentary. It's a 20-minute YouTube mockumentary. It caused a little bit of controversy with people that took it a bit too seriously. Some Americans particularly didn't see the kind of irony in it. And some people were, saying I should be sued, and it was worth it. Every second of it. Exactly. And we had about 100,000 views in the first couple of weeks. It went pretty busy quite quickly. So I thought, yeah, this is gonna work. So I dress up as the character, the pianist, the disillusioned pianist, who's kind of in his 80s, called Milton Keynes. I live in Buckingham, and every time I drive through Milton Keynes, I think that is the name of a jazz pianist, which is why I use that. So we did an album, and then and that went well. So we did a few shows, and then followed up with another album. Now we've got a live album that comes out on Friday 13th.
And I should ask as well, what did the Osbournes think of Jazz Sabbath?
Well, I made sure that I got kind of approval from all the guys in the band, because I wouldn't have wanted them to think that I was doing something kind of underhand or not respectfully. But musically, it's a very credible stand-up jazz trio, using the melodies and chord progressions and just improvisation sections and just trying to give a different angle on the music. But I just love the comedy side of it. I love Spinal Tap and bands like Divine Comedy. That I love that kind of mix of the two things. It's very British. It's a very British kind of thing. But plus, who doesn't like dressing up as an 85-year-old man?
You do look good for your age, Milton, I have to say. It's working for you. Obviously, it's the music.
we do get people come to the shows who have never heard of, we get weirdly people that have never heard of Black Sabbath. We get some quite kind of hardcore jazz fans. And you get generally some wives of some jazz lovers who come along and have no idea that I'm in costume and I've got, a wig and makeup and all the rest of it. So they get a little confused when they get quite close. They're sort of, you can see them sort of just looking at the wrinkles drawn on them.
Didn't he? Your dad did some stuff on the Jazz Sabbath previously, didn't he? So you did do some stuff with your dad on Jazz Sabbath.
We did a show in Birmingham back in, I think it was 2022, and we hired a theatre rather than go to, normally with these kind of, I book most of the shows in the UK, and I have an agent that books the European shows. But for the UK, I've been round most of these theatres over the last 30 years with all the different bands. So I can just kind of book them myself. I go, oh, right, okay, that's a nice 200 capacity seat. That's a lovely theatre. That's a great jazz club. Let's book one there. That part of it's quite fun. But this particular show, we hired quite a big theatre, like 600-700 capacity theatre in Birmingham. We thought, let's do a real special one. We'll get a brass section in. And I said to my dad, we're going to announce it with special guests, but we're not going to mention who the special guests are. Would you fancy it? And he was like, yeah, sure, no problem. So fortunately it sold out, which was, which was
Thank
good.
goodness.
He said, what songs do you want me to play on? And I said, I want you to play on one song. I want you to walk across the stage whilst we're in the middle of the song. I want you to play a solo for 16 bars. I'll have a keyboard set up and then walk off the other side. And that's it. That's all I want you to do. So, and it was the last song in the set. We did the song called Black Sabbath. And that was it. I nodded to him and it was just perfect. He just shuffled across the stage, played a bit on the keyboard and walked off the other side. And I didn't make eye contact with him at all. It was like...
That's amazing. I bet with the audience sort of like, hang, is that Rick Wakeman?
It was exactly what it was like. It was so good.
Only Adam Wakeman could ask Rick Wakeman to do that and not have Rick Wakeman be very upset by the whole scenario.
Yeah. Well, you've got to use these perks,
Oh, you have. How easy is it to kind of transform it in such a way that it works? Because it does sound like an entirely different listening experience.
Yeah, I think each song kind of, certainly with the first album, I found it quite difficult because I was terrified. I was just, every time I started to sort of work on an arrangement, I thought, if this is rubbish, I'm going to get slaughtered by the Black Sabbath fans. And I didn't really know who was going to listen to it. I didn't know if it was going to be rock fans or... I didn't think jazz fans would take it seriously. I didn't think the rock fans would necessarily like it. I thought it might be a bit quirky. But each song kind of, as I kind of grew in confidence with the arrangements, it became a bit easier. But what I tended to do is I would play a Black Sabbath song, for example, Iron Man, the original version, and then I would sit at the piano and see what happened, what kind of chord structures worked with the melodies. And if 15 minutes passed and it was a real struggle, I'd ditch it and move on to the next one. Mm-hmm. So that happened quite a lot to begin with. So I picked the songs that felt that they lended themselves on the first album to be kind of jazzified, if you like.
It must be a fun challenge in a way.
It's brilliant.
Yeah.
It really is. And I've done a couple of talks at music colleges where people have come to me and said, after I've heard that, I've done that with Duran Duran songs, or they've kind of used it as part of their course as a way of revisiting well-known songs, but in a different style, whether it's kind of countrifying a metal song or folking what was that about Hasty Dixie, which is the best.
Yes, I remember those.
Awesome.
Yeah.
But that's it's great. It's a way of being creative.
But you do take the creativity to a next level though, because you've created the most incredible backstories for your band members and this band, haven't you?
And a lot of credit does have to go to the continuity expert that is Mark, who runs the record label in Tilburg in Holland. He constantly corrects me. He'll listen to everything, any interview I'm doing, whatever, and he'll come back and say, you know, you said 1968. Technically, you hadn't done that show until 1969. You know, he's got the continuity down to the finest detail. I've got to let you into a little secret, which I'm so excited about. Is after just a couple of too many glasses of wine the other day, I bought Milton a car. So I've written a new documentary for Milton and Jazz Sabbath, and this particular car is going to feature in this sort of the next mockumentary. So all I've got to do is get the thing working.
Oh, well, this is next level. I'm loving this. This is blurring reality. And
this is next level dedication. I go and buy a complete wreck of a 1968 Mark II Jaguar. So there's the spoiler alert.
Love it. Well, I love the effort you've gone to with this, but you know, it must be said the music itself is just fabulous, and so to have this kind of live recording coming out, you must be so pleased, and so, you know, kind of, I'm sure quite proud of how far you've come with this whole project.
I think so, yeah. I keep expecting somebody to sort of stand up and go, "You're a fraud," but then I guess that's I can do it by dressing up. I can almost feel like I'm getting away with it. Do you know what I mean? It's
Yes.
like a weird. You know, it's one foot in the acting world, which kind of, you know, means you can get really absorbed. I don't think I could do the show if I wasn't in character.
It's kind of your equivalent of Beyonce Sasha Fierce, isn't it?
I guess so.
Would you ever do a feature-length movie about it? Because it really feels like it'd lend itself.
Well, I had a meeting when I was in Los Angeles a couple of years ago with a guy who wanted to do that, and he was like, "It would be great. We get Jack Black to play, you know, Milton and all this stuff." And then, like most of these conversations you have in Los Angeles, they never lead to anything.
Oh.
So it was a shame. But I have written an 8-part series.
Of course you have.
Which I pitched at Channel 4 about 18 months ago, but they didn't take it. So I'm still going to pursue it when I get time, because it's it follows the kind of the life of Milton. It's kind of half in the 60s and half in current day. So you've got Milton, you know, who's down on his luck, working at the garden centre, you know, serving Rod Stewart and his wife, you know, a kind of bag of manure, and then it flashes back to kind of the 60s. And, well, by the time I finish it, I probably won't need to dye my hair, and I will be grey and old.
Well, in theory now, you should be able to do whatever you want, because you've got a Grammy, Adam, so, you know.
So, I'm not quite sure I'm ever going to quite get used to that, but my dad did text me the other day, and he just said, "I only got nominated, you won one." Finally, I've got one over on my dad.
He finally respects me as a musician.
I'll get a Grammy, then he'll love me.
Manx Radio Saturday Live Lounge with Christy de Haven.